Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. This is a quick repot. Now, this is not the best time of year to be doing a repot. I wouldn't do it if I didn't think it was a bit of an emergency, which was established last time we looked at this plant. Just what sparked it as well is when I did the blast from the past and we were looking at my grow room as it was in whenever it was, 2016, there was an enormous amount in bloom. This plant was in bloom and it reminded me that it's got to be worth saving. It is pretty special. And what's special about it, it's the original cross. Before they started playing with it and trying to improve it, and effectively lost some of the coloration in most cases, and also in many cases lost the fragrance. So in my opinion, a lot of the so-called improvements actually spoilt it. So I've got one of the original crosses. So we will have a go. Let's move that round there and drop it down a bit so you can see what's going on. So this is my, well, I call it a Varnagara apple blossom, but it is called something else now. And it has nothing after the apple blossom, which is why I say it's an original. Yeah, a lot of them now have apple blossom and another word in quotes. Yeah, so it's a named variety. I've just got one of the originals, and I topped this up because there was a few roots showing, and I wanted them to be able to get into something, which is why it looks, the pot's too big and it's over potted. Yeah, so we will get it out and see what we can do with it. A lot of this is going to have to be cut off. It's actually wired in place. I'll be back. I didn't realise I'd need me wire cutters. I never gave that a thought. The other thing I've just noticed, it's got scale. Now I did actually get my alcohol and the cotton wool buds out in preparation in case. And I can see that having tipped the bark out, there's some of the base of these pseudo bulbs have actually got scale because there's far too much bark. But what I will do, we'll just pop that in there for now, is I will rescue this giant stuff. Now what I do with that, obviously it's contaminated, it's been in a pot, is I actually put it in a saucepan with some water and boil it for a while. But I can't get this bark anymore, it's quite precious, and obviously quite a lot of it went in the base of this pot as crocking. Probably won't get all of it, but there's an amount worth saving. As I said, it makes for excellent crocking. This has been in the pot for ages, it's rock hard, you can't even bend it. So as bark goes, it's a bit special. And I got this from Spice Exotic off of eBay a long time ago, and what I should have done once I realised how good it was is gone straight back in and bought lots of it because it will last forever. But in fact when I inquired about some more, they said they can't get it, it's all gone. So I've rescued that. That's enough to do a couple of pots, and it's worth boiling it up and saving it, as I said. Right, so what have we got then? We certainly saved that pot. I'll show you what I mean by the scale. They're on the base of these. So I just want to shake this off, otherwise it will fall on the floor. I'd rather it went in here. They're on the base of the old pseudo bulbs. Here. Yeah? So they are around, but most of the bits that have got the scale on are about to be cut off. And what I'm trying to do is rescue this little bit in the centre. And I'm hoping that is possible. I'm going to have to go and get my secateurs. That scissors are not going to cut that. Yet again, I'll be back. Yeah, there's no way my little scissors would cut through these rhizomes, that's for sure. So we start with what we know we're taking off, and that's that for a start. And the most important thing, because this plant's not happy, is that there's no sign of fusarium. A lot of my Cattleyas had fusarium. Round the old place in the old days, I bought a lot from a seller down in down in Devon. It was a very, very slight detour from a trip to Burnham's, which I was happy to do. And the lady had a big collection, just in a house, no greenhouse or conservatory or anything, just in the house. She had a very large collection of Cattleyas and Cattleya types, and some other types, but mainly those. And I'd bought some off of her on eBay, and I'd bought some more, and she said, well, I said, can I collect them? And she said, yes, you can call round, gave me the address and everything. So I called round, and in those days I didn't know anything about fusarium. In fact, I'd never heard of it. So I quite happily ignored the fact that these Cattleyas did not thrive. Didn't thrive at all well. And I got Cattleyas from other places that seemed to do okay, and it took me a while before I worked out what was going on. Unfortunately, those were eventually lost. I was just going to say we will need. Quite honestly, the bit that's left, this pseudo bulb here, has got no leaves, but the rest of it is attached. If I try and cut it off, it's also plump, relatively. So I'm going to leave that on. I'm going to leave that as a plant as is. I've just got a few more dead roots to get off. I've got more roots here than I expected, but I've got no growing root tips. So the plant's not happy. It's not actively growing. And the last growth that it put up, although better than the previous one, is still not the right size. These pseudo bulbs should be half as big again. It's capable of having mainly 2 leaves, but it can have 3. And when you get 3 leaves on pseudo bulbs on this particular Cattleya type, you know your plant's doing well. It's got the energy to produce that 3rd leaf. That's quite important. And get a few pseudo bulbs with that 3rd leaf on and you're almost guaranteed it'll bloom. Now, I can't remember when this blooms, whether it blooms immediately after the bulb matures or whether it has a rest first like some Cattleyas do. They mature their bulb. Some of them, like the purpuratas, they need 2 or 3 months after the bulb secures when they stop growing. They completely rest, no root activity, nothing. They just sit there and do nothing. Then the spike comes up and they come back into growth. Right, so what I'm going to do now is search this plant. Yeah, see, even down in between the leaves. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a bit of alcohol in a container. I'm going to go over this plant with a fine tooth comb and try and remove every single sign of scale. So searching leaf joints. Leaf joints on the top of the plant are quite important because they will be damaged. Alright, so we've got our cotton wool buds. And we've got our alcohol, which we've just slopped all over the place. Never mind. What a pleasant smell. So down in the leaf joints. And what I'm doing this time is the alcohol should kill the little blighters, but I'm physically removing them. I'm not taking the chance that some might survive. I'm not spraying it. See, that was an adult scale there, but it just touched off. So I don't think it was alive. It would be an old one. And again here, there's a couple under those leaves. leaf joint, yes, down in there. As I said, I'm physically removing. I want them gone. Right, so that's the top of the plants. Now we come down each pseudobulb in turn and gently wipe right down to the base, all sides down to the base. There's virtually no sheaths on this plant, they've all been removed. There's just a couple here which I will take off now. That's their hidey place. No hidey place, then at least they should be visible. Right. So now we come down here. Now this latest growth hasn't got any scale on the pseudobulb. This one down to the base. And we've got this older one here. Big sheath there, we'll take that off. Nothing underneath it, that's good. Why I want to physically remove them is a secondary reason. If I physically remove every one that I can actually see, bearing in mind some would have gone in the media, well that's gone now, there is no media left. If I remove every single one during this process and in 2 or 3 weeks time I find another one, or some, then I obviously didn't get rid of them. But they would be in very low numbers. So, right. Now lots of people are going to say you were totally unprepared for that repot because now I'm going to have to go and get something else. So yet again I'll be back. Right. Where I cut that pseudobulb before and I showed it to you and showed that it was Cleanu fusarium, that bulb's now gone, but we still have a wet joint, yeah? We have a cut, again, no fusarium, but we have a wet joint, so we need some cinnamon on that to dry it off. And so we need a bit of water, just dab that on. I don't know who discovered this, but it really does work. It dries out the area you put it on totally, and it has properties that stop any infections getting in, and bacteria and all that sort of stuff. Now I can't think who went in their spice cupboard and got cinnamon out when they weren't making apple pie. But somebody discovered it. Perhaps somebody did a chemical analysis and came up with that might work for so and so. Well, it does. Right, so that's our plant. Now with all this tap removed, yeah, it doesn't actually look like a bad plant. And if it can grow sensibly, then it will probably be a good plant again. But with no active roots, it would be awfully nice if once in some media and a much smaller pot, some of these roots would come back and reactivate and branch. It is a branching root system, but this latest growth has some stumps at the base. So there are signs of potentially new roots coming out. Signs, I wouldn't say that's an active root system, but potentially there could be some new roots. So we will get that in a small pot, literally just enough to contain those roots so that it doesn't stay wet like it was here with all the moss and the algae in the pot, and a far too big a pot. Right, I'm going to do it again. Now I shall have a clear up, get some media and a suitable pot, and I'll be back. This is getting silly. Right, and hopefully for the last time, right, I've decided to use one of these pots. It's a little wide, but it's relatively shallow, and it's got excellent ventilation all round, including in the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some of this, what is this stuff called? Pumice. This was the replacement for my grow stones. Now why am I putting that in there? I'm putting that in there for weight. Yeah? If I use bark as crocking, there's no weight to it. When this gets wet, that will add weight to the bottom of the pot and stop the plant tipping the pot over when the plant gets bigger. Not if, when the plant gets bigger. Right, now I've got this bark here, which is, it's classed as small, but it has got some bigger bits in it. But it's very airy, and with an airy pot like that, this media is going to dry pretty quick. Now, because I want to use dry media, I've done something I don't normally do. I've had the plant in soak. So the roots have now taken on board what was in my watering bowl, which is actually got some feed in it. So, something for the lower roots, which will sit on this, like that. And we've got our new growths, our oldest growths towards the back of the pot, and the new growths with plenty of space in front of them, should they decide to throw out some new growths. Well, one day, I mean, if this plant's going to survive, it will need a new growth at some point. But I don't believe it's going to do that until it starts to get some roots growing. So the first job is to get some roots going. Now again, because it's bark, it can go right up to the base of the plant, because it will dry probably in a day. When I give this a good soaking, the top bark, the top layer, the layer you can see, will be dry in a day. Now this is a Cattleya type, so a fast wet dry cycle is ideal. That goes across the board, not just for this one. They like a fast wet dry cycle. So that's quite a sturdy pot with the weight like that. I'm just going to do a bit of pressing down now around the outside of the pot, just to hopefully secure the plant a bit better and stop it wobbling. So I think we'll be okay there. Now I'm just looking at my latest growth. That's the one with the nubbins, the one that's likely to produce some new roots. So I'm just putting some smaller bark round the base, so that if we do get some roots, they'll have something to get straight into. Now, believe it or not, I'm not going to water that. I'm actually going to leave it a couple of days and then I'll water it. And the first few times I water it, I will water it what I call gently. So it won't get 3 or 4 glassfuls poured over it and absolutely soaked like an established plant would get. But I'm going to have to start reducing that now. I'm going to have to concentrate when I water, because with the lower temperatures, especially at night and the shorter days, that's too much water now. So the habit I've had for the last 4 or 5 months, I've now got to break. I've got to start reducing water. I've got to start checking pots to see if, are these pots still wet? And if they are, they miss a run, literally. They're better off with too little water than too much when temperatures are low and days start getting short, because they slow down. Some will even stop growing. Right, now as far as looking after an apple blossom is concerned, yes, it's a Cattleya type, although it's got a stupid name, but I've done a new label with the proper name on it. Jack Fowliara instead of Ivana Gara. So that's what it's now called. And for those of you who are unaware, apple blossom on the registered name is all one word, not 2 separate words like you would normally have. So that's how it should be as registered, even though the name's changed now. That's not how it was registered originally. So we've got a nice new label with the correct name on. We've repotted it. We've given it the best chance we can to start to recover at a better rate. Now, it did grow some new growths, so it was recovering, but it still had some scale to deal with. I've now dealt with them, hopefully for good. If there was going to be any eggs or anything, I'd have thought they'd have hatched by now. And don't forget, the hot box was in use. Yeah, so those that I've removed should have been dead anyway. Anyway, so that's what we've done, and it's reasonably sturdy in the pot, so it's not going to waggle around. And as I said, I'm not actually. It's been in soak. Although I do I'll be back, the gap between I'll be back and me turning the camera back on, you don't know. That could have been 2 hours. It wasn't, but it could have been, because it's offline. But basically the plant was in soak for a reasonable amount of time, so the roots are hydrated. They would have absorbed probably as much as they possibly could, given that they're functional but not good. So it won't need water for a while now, and it's not going to get any. It'll get some in a couple of days. So I've now got to put this not where it was, because that's all in behind the Cymbidium staging, up on the far shelf. Now, looking after these, although this is a Cattleya type, it's got a quirk that's worth remembering, especially if you grow quite a few Cattleyas. You tend to have them all in the same place. Get this one at the back. This one does not like the same level of light intensity that most Cattleyas will put up with, and in some cases need, or they won't bloom. Some Cattleyas need quite incredibly high light to actually bloom. This one doesn't. It needs good light, but if you get too much light on it, especially sun, you will probably singe your leaves, as I found out round the old place, and singe the top of most of the leaves because the sun got on it. And the other Cattleyas in the same area were fine. This one wasn't. So I would suggest this one needs a little less light and keep the direct sun off of it. I mean, winter sun will probably be okay, you know, or early morning, late afternoon, all that sort of stuff, because it still needs bright light. It's still a Cattleya type, and it still needs the rest of the sort of things that the Cattleya types like. So they don't like getting cold. So going through the winter, this one is not happy. It's tolerant. It will put up with it, but it's not happy. And then come the longer days and the warmer weather, hopefully it will get going a bit better. I really don't want to lose this. I'll do the pop-up of the bloom and the name now, to refresh everybody's memory of why I don't want to lose this. These blooms are pretty special. The fragrance is quite strong, and it smells of freesias, which is, in my opinion, one of the best floral fragrances in the world. It's absolutely one of my favourites, and to have an orchid that has that fragrance is pretty special. So anyway, a repot, totally in the wrong season, but I didn't want to leave it in that pot any longer because it wasn't helping it at all. So there we go, and thanks for dropping by and all that stuff, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.